A warm hello on day 3 of Climate Conversations at HLF 2026. The stream Climate Conversations is put together by EkoGalaxy. It's a platform for climate education. And the founders are here, Shreya Sridharan and myself, Urvi. And essentially, it is our dream to build nature-rich futures for ourselves, but as well for the beautiful, the rich, the life-sustaining biodiversity that we are so very lucky to share our planet with. We're thrilled to welcome you to Climate Conversations, where we try each year to bring meaningful, nuanced, and enduring sessions to our audience. Before I introduce our speakers for this session, EkoGalaxy begins each session with an acknowledgement. The land on which we gather, and perhaps the land on which we live, once belonged to our city's rocks, trees, insects, birds, and countless other living beings indigenous to this land. We acknowledge this in the spirit of solidarity, humility, and a respect for our shared existence on this planet. All right, so the second session of the day and the 10th session of Climate Conversations overall is Reimagining Food Systems with a Climate Lens, Decentralized Production, and Empowered Communities. And for this session, we bring together in conversation giants in the field. I say this not because they are both highly regarded, hugely successful in their work, but most of all, because it seems to us that they walk the talk with resilience and I think a rare integrity to the cause of the planet's health. I won't stand in the way much longer, but please allow me to introduce both our speakers. Shashi Kumar is co-founder and CEO of Akshayakalpa Organic. He did his bachelor's in computer science, worked at Wipro Technologies, and completed his master's in telecommunication engineering at the Illinois Institute of Technology, Chicago. After 17 years in the tech industry, he returned home to rethink and recreate the country's farm sector to improve the economic conditions of small and marginal farmers. With the support of colleagues, he started Akshayakalpa in 2010, which has grown to become India's largest certified organic milk company. And most importantly, a majority of the 850 farmers who are a part of the Akshayakalpa movement have improved their earnings by 3 to 4 times. Sameer Shisodia is CEO of Rainmatter Foundation and has led it since its founding in 2020. His concern for food systems, climate, and the biodiversity collapse led him away from his earlier tech avatar. He also runs a locally focused travel outfit, has created regenerative farming collectives, and the Rainmatter Foundation is trying to create mainstream changes to address the most critical issues the species has ever faced. Though his bio is very short, as it often is for the most interesting of people, his contributions, both intellectual and through the work of his organization, are extremely significant. Rainmatter Foundation, under Sameer's steering, has nurtured and supported projects for climate action, healthy environments, and the livelihoods associated with them through restoration, resources, and solutions to protect our natural ecosystems. Thank you very much to the both of you for joining this discussion, but most of all, I think on behalf of everyone, for the incredible work that you do. Please join me, everyone, in welcoming them both to stage. And thank you also to our audiences for showing up day after day, on your day off as well, to discuss climate conversations.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's always amazing to see these many people willing to discuss climate in a lit fest. As I have told Shreya and Urvi multiple times by now, it is, nobody wants to talk of the tough stuff in a happy place. Right? And that's where we are as a planet. Like, we are avoiding the conversation overall. So Shashi and I actually meet very often at coffee shops. We have a favorite Litti Chokha place in HSR layout in Bangalore, and we spent 2.5, 3 hours. So when they asked us if we wanted to have this conversation on stage with mics, we said yes. But the challenge was to now keep it down to 30 minutes because our conversations are really deep and really long. And I've learned so much from not only his actions and the work he does, but the constant questions and the introspection that he brings to it. And to me, that way of being, that way of seeing things, that way of staying grounded is something the planet needs a lot more of. So thanks for doing this, Shashi. Yes.
Thank you, Sameer. Yeah.
So we'll kick this off. We actually met yesterday and did some homework like good students. And we broke the whole, that very loaded sentence down. So what are food systems? Why, when we say food systems, why should people, in the context of climate, but otherwise, what should people care about? What are some of these things that are at risk or that we need to be concerned about? Because you've been, right now, he's running 80 different experiments in the farm. And when I say he's running it, it's not his team, right? He does it by hand. So please take it away and just explain for all of us when we think of food systems, what is the map looking like, and what is the concern there?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Yeah, I hope still there's a lot of energy left here. See, I think it's I should say it's a very moot point to a certain extent if you ask, what are our food systems? See, the life exists, on Earth because we get to eat some food. Food is actually giving life to all of us. Unfortunately, what's happening is we tend to understand the food from what we eat in the morning, what we eat in the afternoon, what we eat in the night. What goes in the back of it, hardly anybody is aware of it, Even the farmers who produce that food, they are not aware of what's happening in the food ecosystem, at this point of time. To get into very specifics now, for example, in the context of climate, we understand heavy rain, actually destroys crops. But is it just that what you are imagining? It's just heavy rain came or heavy heat came, there's a heat stroke. Is that just our understanding of food in the context of climate? I'm just giving two examples which we can all relate, What's happening in India due to rains, what's happening in Pakistan, our own neighbors, how the rain has been devastating communities in India and Pakistan. Of course, how to understand what's happening from a climate and food perspective, it should be all our problem. People who are sitting here, people who are not sitting here, the students, all the intellects, all the officials, farmers, technically who all eat food, I think they should start really get concerned about what's happening. Just to define, for argument's sake, what is a food system? See, it's a definition of it has varied over a period of time. For example, a hunter-gatherer community, 10,000 years back, we were just hunters and gatherers. We never did agriculture. We never did farming. We don't really understand. Farming has only 10,000 years history, max. On a 4 billion years history of Earth, only 10,000 years history of farming. So technically what we are doing farming is not what it was. It is an engineering of production of food. We need to acknowledge that. Over a period of time, Sameer, what has happened is, we believe this engineering, agriculture revolution happened, industrial revolution happened, agriculture industry caught up, in some kind of a madness, as an input to industrial revolution, agriculture was required. So we started thinking, how do we scale agriculture production? But we never ever understood limitations it imposed on the soil. We never understood. So that's where I believe it intersects with climate. So the climate impact, it's just not on the food. Climate impact impacts overall. It impacts the ecology. So the food what we are growing actually is a direct descendant of our ecology. Ecology is what? It is you, it is me, that microbe, the soil, the water, the tree, the trench, the burn, the rain, whatever you can imagine, this building, they're all part of that ecology. So the food systems needs to be imagined in that context. So my question and my hunch, or you can call it disappointment, Sameer, is, are we really making an attempt to understand it? Understand that one in the context of public, understand as a policymaker, understand, as a general janta, do we really understand what's happening?
Yeah, so that's a tough one because, like you said, it's all intersecting. Every choice we make. I mean, the imagination that you can have mango shakes in winter. I mean, it's interesting that climate is starting to produce mangoes in winter now, right? But our imagination broke first, and then the climate broke, right? Because we disconnected with this reality of what happens to, like you said, to soil. How do soil and rainfall relate? How does that relate with heat? How does that relate with the biodiversity around us? Well, our observation of all of this, our understanding of all of this started to break down quite dramatically in the last couple of generations, for sure. Today, we don't actually understand. We think in terms of point events, point solutions. When Punjab got hit by the massive floods that have happened, we are thinking in terms of a 3-month reaction and a 6-month reaction and this year's reaction. The response is really for the next 20 years, because this is going to happen again and again and again. The response needs to first understand your landscape and the way the water flows, and the fact that the rivers come and slow down over there. And if you have a 5x and a 10x event upstream, right, are you equipped to deal with that over here? Punjab has no forests left. The landscape has been, like you said, engineered, beyond imagination, right? And at the same time, you're digging deep for groundwater, bringing out heavy metals, bringing out arsenic, creating health issues. We don't see food systems as part of our health situation, as part of our urban planning, as part of our forest systems, and so on and so forth. So this blindness is extreme, and I think the even more worrying thing is that we don't really understand the pace at which it is happening. I mean, by many estimates, we are very likely to stare at cascaded food systems failures at a continental level within the next decade. Right now, we've seen Greece lose 25% of its arable land in one event. We've seen what you described that happened in Pakistan and now Punjab and so on and so forth. But what happens when it happens multiple times at a continental level, as Europe is starting to see, within the same year? We see wheat loss of 20 to 25% when heat stress and the Ukraine war both happened in the same year. Right? What does that do to your availability on the shelf? What does it do to your agro-based industries? Right? I don't think we've connected the dots yet, and I don't think we understand the rate at which this is accelerating. I mean, whether it's on temperature, folks in Bangalore aren't imagining 50 degree temperatures at this point of time, but it's not unlikely. We're just starting to see 3x, 4x rainfall events as one-offs right now. We are not seeing it as the new normal. What happened in Australia just a few weeks ago, it went from wildfires across the entire continent to a sudden spate of floods across Australia. Right? We still report it as news that happens as a flash in the pan. All of these once in 1,000-year events are happening every year now, right? But when we are designing our systems, whether it's food systems or city systems or supply chains or businesses, we are not accounting for that yet. So, I mean, my question back to you would be, assuming that, because you're a practitioner and you're seeing this in the field, so you must have seen some of these play out in different ways. Yes, we need to understand this better, but I think climate has a way of forcing that understanding upon us. Right? It'll happen. But if we do, what can we do about it? Will the methods and the technologies of the last 20, 30, 40, 100 years help us? What do we need to do? What do we need to understand? How do we prepare for this?
See, the preparation, so one is being critic of what's happening, okay? And one is being critic of, oh, we don't understand. So that is, okay, given. I think it's happening all over. To your question, what can we do, okay? I think we need examples, okay, to narrate what is happening, how to change this. Without examples, it's very difficult to describe climate, okay, impact. It's very difficult, believe me. So we need, okay, we are talking of food systems. Every village needs an example how to build a regenerative food system. We need an example. We need an example of how that can, okay, perpetuate, okay, throughout, okay, maybe next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So the question is, what is that example? Is it economics, okay, is an example? Or is it a clean food production is an example? Okay, is it, okay, huge produce coming out is an example? Okay, let me articulate like this. For example, how many of us know, okay, sitting here, I am assuming most of you are from Telangana. I travel extensively in Telangana. Last 3 years, probably I have touched nook and corner of Telangana. Okay, I'm not exaggerating, maybe 15 days, a month, okay, I'm traveling in rural areas in Telangana. Do you know that Telangana is a biggest rice producer in the country? How many of you know? Yeah, it's interesting, no? How did that happen? We'll be patting our back, isn't it? For me, it's a disaster, okay? It's a disaster, believe me. For millennia, these lands were adjusted for rain-fed agriculture, okay? Now, what did we do? We took out the shallow aquifers. Shallow aquifers is within 500 feet, whatever water is stored, you lift it and you irrigate and you grow paddy. Second thing is, you take all your rivers, okay, and do lift irrigation and provide, okay, for growing paddy. These lands, which were adjusted for millennia for rain-fed agriculture. Now, if you go to any land in Telangana which is growing paddy, salts have come up, okay, and basically water percolation has stopped. In my view, it's a climate event, okay? Climate event, okay, where designs, okay, have killed sustainability of farming. Since the water percolation has stopped, now we have to use heavy tractors, heavy machinery to plow it, okay? And no matter how much rain it happens, it won't percolate down. Your shallow aquifers will have a tough time taking that water in. So there are a host of issues like this, Sameer, okay, that need examples, okay? Can rain, it's okay. People can say, can rain-fed irrigation be good enough, okay, for growing food for us? My honest answer is yes, it is possible. We need models. Okay, that's what we are trying to model from past 16 years. Not a huge number of models. For example, last 16 years, we have created around 2,800 models, working with 2,800 farmers. Okay, average 2.5 to 3 acres of land holding, where soil shaping, how do you integrate animals into farming, how do you rainwater harvest, how do you use that water more judiciously, how do you get economics out of it with a diversity as a focus and ecology as center to that, you get the economics of a farm organized. I believe, so these are the models, these are the answers we need. We need a lot more answers. I'm not saying 2,800 answers are good enough, okay, to prove others, but these 2,800 answers exist in 2,800 villages, okay, in three clusters. One is in Telangana, Mehboob Nagar. Second one is in Tiptur, okay, in Tumkur district. Third one is, okay, Chengalpattu in Tamil Nadu. So these examples need to go by agroclimatic region by agroclimatic region. Prove, okay, that we can produce food, okay, and it's economically viable. In my opinion, that's how I define the climate action for farming. So, but coming back to my earlier question, Sameer, is that realization happening? For example, today, what is the climate action, what we are thinking as a policymakers? We believe, okay, climate action is 60% of the people, okay, today in the country dependent on agriculture, 15% of the GDP comes from agriculture. Now, what are we trying to do is, we are trying to remove that 60% of the people, okay, out there and getting into 15% of the people into agriculture. You might think, what is this to do with climate? Okay, you think it's a policy. Yes, wonderful policy. What is that has done is, when you remove that 60% of the people in farming out and try to put into services sector, okay, you are removing young people from that ecosystem, which is 60%. There are no young people in farming today. If you can ask me, if I'm sitting here and talking, son of a farmer, why the heck I became an engineer? You ask me, no? My father never wanted me to be a farmer. Any girl or a boy born in villages today, okay, parents want them to get out of villages. In my opinion, there's an indirect climate, this one. Do we realize this as a policy, Sameer? I think you are in that space, talking to a lot of people, okay, in this space, and trying to influence that decision making, how we can make local production systems. Some of the experiments we are doing on oil production is mind-blowing. Okay, we are trying to really see that we don't need any big companies doing any service to anybody. Is it possible to decentralize entire production systems? Okay, and of course, Rainmatter has been a big support for us. What do you think? What's happening? Why the policies are so bad? Maybe bad is a very, okay, let me say, misused word. Why it is so, okay, disgusting? Maybe the right word. Okay, so
no, I think it's almost unfair to pin it on policy alone. I think the imagination of our civilization as a species has moved in the last few hundred years. We have tended to work towards centralized systems, simple answers that we can apply to all villages, all parts of the country, and so on and so forth. You said 2,800 different solutions in 2,800 different villages. You know, these are fit to purpose for my situation, my village, my rainfall pattern, my terrain, my soil. You know, and sometimes you see it vary from this side of the hill to that side of the hill. Right? So it has to be adapted to that extent. I mean, that's nature, that's evolution, that's science. We know it from so many different lenses that everything is adapted to its local ecosystem and environment. But somewhere in our centralized systems, in our urge to manage things centrally, we have stopped accounting for that. Right? So it's not just in policy. As consumers, we look for the same foods wherever we go. All our cities are looking the same. our, our choices in farming itself. Farmers are looking to the same producers of seeds, same producers of inputs, same markets, you know. We have a joke in the foundation today that everybody except rural India knows that rural India is a very big market. You know, in a panchayat, people are consuming 1.2 crores of biscuits. He mentioned oil production. Like India is a 70% importer of oil, but every village is an importer of oil. Right? Most villages are importers of vegetables, of everything. Right? But that is an invisible problem. We don't understand this. You know, so the average, doing this with a lot of partners, in Odisha and Jharkhand, for production in a village of amount X, the average household expenses is 5x. There's no way in hell you're going to meet that gap through primary production only of 5 commodities. Yeah, even your food basket it's the grains, but all your nutrients are in the vegetable patches and the microgreens and the seasonals, and then in protein. Right? You were saying yesterday that livestock is hugely ignored when we were discussing this. Right? So we don't actually look at it as an integrated system. We don't see our places as home anymore. Because a home has all of these things. A home has your health, a home has your livelihoods, it has young people, it has all of this. Right? In the imagination of the policymaker, but also in the imagination of the farmer, the village is a center of production of grain, by and large. That's how we look at our villages, which is a very poor way of looking at it. Right? It is also a place that manages water. It is a place that manages an economy, right? Which had a village cluster had anywhere between 40 and 120 different livelihoods and production systems. Today, there are 2 things that happened in the last, and this is from when I was a kid to now, I've seen this happening. One is the default adjective for farmer is poor now, right? And we started saying that, and then we made it happen. We made sure it happened, right? And the other thing is that when we think of village, we only think of farming. And when we think of farming, we only think of crops and fields, to the point of diversity and, we were discussing tree-based systems and so on and so forth. So our imagination has gone missing. So one is, this decentralization bit is so important. Communities have to start seeing their own places as homes. And policy needs to now support that. Right? Policy needs to recognize these 2,800 different places as 2,800 different places. And be an enabler for them to take their own decisions, rather than take one decision and force it on everybody equally. I mean, how can you have something like Har Ghar Jal done the same way in coastal Karnataka, in the Himalayas, in Meghalaya, in central India? These are absurd notions. So you have to adapt locally, you have to design locally, you have to understand your soil, your rainfall, your heat stress, your forest systems. Which are the trees that manage water for you? I have asked this question in every part of India I've gone to. This knowledge is disappearing. Where are your knowledge systems at? So it's a larger imagination. It's definitely showing up in our policy as well. So I think it's a story we have to change overall. So yeah, in your efforts, I would like you to actually talk about a few of the efforts, especially around the decentralized production that you're trying. And what do you think will happen because of that? What are you seeing as success? We should leave on a hopeful, optimistic note, right?
See, there's a few experiments we are trying on, other than what Akshakalpa does. Outside the purview of Akshakalpa, I would like to share some of the work, what's happening. We are trying a decentralized oil production systems, okay? For example, a groundnut is grown in that village. Can we have an entrepreneur in that village produce oil, and all the Kirana stores in next 5 to 7 villages, can we replace that oil coming from that oil unit? We are trying an experiment. You'll be shocked to know kind of impact it can create. Local entrepreneur producing that oil and local kirana stores replacing that oil. We can actually beat FMCG just like that because cost of production is low. Centralized systems, cost of production being low, I doubt it. Okay, distribution costs are non-existent. Okay, packaging costs are almost not there. So these are all things will produce, okay, produce which is world class and it is available for common man. That's what, okay, is possible. Okay, this is 8 experiments we have done from last 2 years. It is yielding amazing amount of results. 85,000 rupees a net that lady makes with a 5-day production system. Okay, in a month they produce only 5 days. Remaining 5 days they distribute. That lady distributes that oil in that kirana stores. And 5 days we have made it because the quality supervision is a little bit required to make sure a world-class, okay, oil production can happen. So these are the next step in decentralized food production systems.
Let me add one thing to think. That oil did not need the same amount of diesel to travel to the consumer.
Yes.
Right? It grew with soil benefits. It did not need as much packaging as you already mentioned. Right? That money did not flee that cluster. That money is retained in that cluster. The number of benefits from this little transition are just crazy. Climate is one of the outcomes on this.
So in fact, the money remained in the community. The community produced oil. The community bought the, okay, oil. The money is circulating. Okay, I don't know how many of you know thrift models. How many of you know thrift models? How many contribute to thrift models? 0. Thrift models don't borrow money, you know. Thrift models, it's a government policy. Thrift, we can set up a thrift cooperative. Okay, you need not borrow any money from any bank. So you lend, okay, to your neighbor. It's a policy. RBI guidelines are there. Anybody can, okay, do thrift models. Go to Timbuktu and see. Amazing impact of thrift. 85 crores. They own lending in their own systems. They don't borrow money from Canara Bank. Actually, in fact, they have deposited money in Canara Bank. Okay, so that's the beauty of, it's on Anantapur. Okay,
Timbuktu is a NGO organizing this. So it's a women's cooperative that has its own corpus, huge corpus, and they lend to their neighbors.
Yeah, Timbuktu is not, okay, as a Timbuktu, it's a collective, is near Anantapur. Amazing work they are doing from 1990, Babylon team, then a lot of demonstrations. This oil units amazing demonstration. Akshakalpa is a decentralized production systems. Okay, it is demonstrated that this produce which is coming in here, actually it is a decentralized production system. Okay, we can go wherever the markets there in and around the organized agriculture. Okay, this is what some of the things which is happening. Just to correct that number which was introduced earlier, 2,800 families work with us. Last financial year 24-25, we passed on 380 crores to 280 families. Okay, at an average, we paid 128,000 rupees to each family every month. You know what is the land holding? Definitely not 10 acres. 2.5 acres is average land holding. This is what is possible in a resilient articulation where young people can get back to farming. Average age of an Indian farmer is 55. Average age of an Akshakalpa farmer is 32. We are able to get young people back into farming, taking up farming. So those are some of the
That
things.
is a policy pitch. The other pitch from that is the soil carbon has gone up to 2.4, 2.5% across these farms from 0.3, 0.2%. Pollination services in that area have increased, and Shashi and team record these numbers. They have evidence on this. The water security in one major iteration across a season where there was huge water stress in the area, all the Akshakalpa farms did well, right? Same thing for the lumpy cow disease because they have an ethnovet service, completely antibiotic free in that area. None of the villages suffered, not just their farms, but none of the villages suffered because these practices are available around there, right? These are all deeply linked to climate. Climate is not happening in a separate bucket out there. Climate is linked to how you conduct your economy, how your production is, how each of us consumes. Because if you're not ready to consume diversity, if you're not ready to consume local, you know, the production system will not engage well with it. So on the consumer side, they have done a lot of education. So I think it's an all of society, all of economy effort that's really needed, like you were saying, to start with. And it's been honestly beautiful to see this from our ringside view on it. I'm very privileged, but it's been really, really been amazing to watch this journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Sameer.
We'll take questions if you have any. Yes, please.
Actually, a couple of things. Hi, am I audible? Hi. Firstly, every time we speak about food systems, or we think about farming, and then we think about adaptation and resilience. But the truth that we don't talk about is food systems contribute to 31% of carbon dioxide emissions in the world, which is equivalent to road transport, right? They are the highest emitters if we have to talk about this. And a large percentage of that emission, Sameer, doesn't come from transportation of food, but actually production of food, right? Everything from fertilizers to cattle to dairy, it all just emits carbon dioxide. Why are we not, and every time we figure out some artificial meat solution or something around those lines, it never works. And 0.5 degrees increase in global warming is going to lead to some thousands of hectares of farm loss. Are we also actually thinking about better ways to mitigate emissions at source without maybe falling into the trap of another protein deficiency in the world economy? Right, it's like a dead end anywhere you go, right? Like what are your thoughts on how anybody can solve that? Because I rack my head around it and I can't figure out.
I'll do a very short answer to that and leave examples to him because he has real examples. I have theory, right? 2 or 3 things. One is all of these things add up to what we see. These ideas of mitigation and adaptation, etc., are very great in policy rooms and research rooms and all of that. In reality, it's about lived experience and how you're living your life and what choices you're making on a day-to-day basis. Built into that are issues around mitigation and adaptation and so on and so forth. Right? It's about what trade-off you're making. So it's about primarily increasing. If your farm is a lot more water resilient, you are not going to go 1,200 feet into the ground to grab that water, right? That's energy. The food energy nexus is a very well-known, when it's established. It's in fact, I think in Telangana, 1 year it was over 30% of the state's electricity budget, right? So these are very large numbers. So if you can make farms resilient, diversity, if your diversity is vast, you can be rain-fed. You know, the farm will take care of itself. Just bringing the water requirement down and the water stress down has huge ramifications on energy. Like straight out. Diversity also takes care of other forms of footprint in the farm, right? The inputs you need. Actually, even bio inputs are not necessarily needed in a rich ecosystem. We were discussing this with APCNF day before, and the farmers who are graduating to a very, very mature level stop using even bio inputs. You don't actually need to make Jivamrita anymore. You know, your farming, your natural ecosystem actually takes care of it. Pest management. Yeah, so you can do chemical fertilizers, but you can do biological, better fertilizers. But you don't need anything in a rich ecosystem. All of it. You go to any forest ecosystem, biology has figured out,
Correct, but all of that is now under threat because of the amount of fertilizer we've historically.
Correct, it is. But that's what they have shown, that you can actually rebuild it if you also plan diversity, if you plan your farming systems, if you plan integrated poultry systems, if you plan livestock into it, and so on and so forth. You can, they're doing a huge 1,000 plus biogas units, which are also adding. Wow, 1,750. Each time the number keeps going up, right? So you can create integrated systems there at the farm level, at the level of the local cluster, right, and at the level of the region, which are actually regenerative. Regenerative is not a very lightweight word. We use it very lightly. Right? These are all targeted towards the 1,000 different trade-offs you're making at every scale. Right? The oil production he mentioned is also now providing groundnut cake to him, which is now traveling lesser and it's guaranteed organic. So there are wins like this. I'll leave the examples to you.
Yes. See, there are two things, okay, we need to really understand what is happening in food space, okay? Most of the food production today happens because the market exists. I need this for market, I will produce this for market. That is a damning consequences on arable soils in the world. 60% of arable soils, they got less than 0.5% carbon in the world. It's gone. In next 50 years, we're going to lose remaining 40% below 0.5%. How many of you know what is the 0.5% soil organic carbon? Who knows that? Hardly anybody in this room, I bet. Below 0.5% soil organic carbon, lands are declared as deserts. Desert ecosystem has less than 0.5% carbon, okay, in the soil. Where is the carbon? Okay, second part is, if you continue to articulate your position from market, your energy efficiencies you will never achieve. Okay, you will continue to exploit, you will continue to feed the market, okay, in the mirage of growth. You continue to grow, you continue to do everything, but you don't have understanding of limitations of your resources. That's the first problem. Second problem, okay, comes from the fact that how these resources are deployed. For example, how do you understand a tree? Do you have a common sense? We understand tree as a wood. We understand tree as something else. We need to understand trees as standing column of water. Tree is 80% water. You need not build your dams and bridges or etc. Integrate trees into farming ecosystem. How many books are there? How many theories are there? How many headbanging is happening on, okay, tree integration in farming? Where it is happening? Go to rural Telangana, zero. Everywhere you grow paddy, you enjoy paddy, you get combined harvesters, you harvest, and you do everything. So where do you get your energy efficiencies? You can't get your energy efficiency, okay, by this. It's immoral to say that, okay, agriculture contributes 31% of greenhouse gases because you survive on that and you try to push your morality on the agriculture production. What are we doing to reduce it? We are not thinking. For example, if you don't integrate animals into farming, your farming is dead. Go to dogs. Okay? No, how many of us can daredevil enough there to go and talk about this, act on this? What are we doing, okay, to our animal ecosystem? Be it a sheep, be it a goat, be it a cow, be it a buffalo. Amazing integration needs to happen rather than going and headbanging on methane emissions. Stop that. All your economy is going to collapse. What are we sitting here? What we ate today, everything is going to collapse if the farmer stops having that inefficient buffalo with him. So, it's very unfortunate that it's emotional. I understand. It's emotional, I understand. Anybody who has traveled and people, see, that's the reason I believe these kind of conversations has no meaning. Because most of the people are intellects, thinking in their brain. Where is the action? Let's act. Understand that 31%, I'm also concerned. But what can I do? Can a buffalo which is producing half a liter, quarter liter, what have we done in last 100 years to take that production of a buffalo to 10 liters? You tell me, that's where energy efficiencies will come. Same feed, same forage, same land, same farmer, everything is the same, resources are the same. We have highest buffalo population in the world. 50% of our milk production is buffalo. Most inefficient production systems. That's where the energy is going in. We are failing ourselves as a nation. We have failed our farmers. We have failed ourselves. And we have failed the entire ecosystem in this journey of these climate conversations, journey of energy efficiencies. I'm sorry if comes out very, very hard to all of you sitting here. Maybe this is not what the conversation expected, but that's the reality.
Exactly what we hoped for climate conversation.
All right. Can I ask 2 questions? That's fair. All right. Okay, so I wrote it down. This was a study which my understanding of farming is academic. I read about it. I'm zero understanding of practical stuff, right? But one thing which I looked at is when you look at the Aboriginals in Australia and the farming they have done, the mental health aspect of it was something which psychologists there seriously considered. So one thing which came up is if the land is sick, you as a farmer are sick, right? And I'm asking this in the context of Telangana as well, and perhaps also Karnataka in your case, to see how the lack of decentralization of the food systems and the lack of supporting the farmers for access to economy ends up impacting his or her mental health, right? And how much of this is also tied to the rise in farmer suicides we've seen in the South Indian states particularly. I'm unfamiliar elsewhere. And that's primarily what I wanted to get a better understanding of.
So I attended this very fascinating talk by Otto Scharmer at IIM Bangalore, where he talks about the disconnect from nature and the planet, disconnect from society. And the last bit was around the illusion of insignificance. The illusion of insignificance, which is what actually manifests as mental health. I mean, I'm no expert on this. I'm just borrowing from what he laid out beautifully. I think the disconnect from our places is very extreme. So when we are merely responding to the market hundreds of kilometers away, when we don't understand our soil, our food systems, the trees withhold water, and we don't build with them and plan around them, we bring in, whether it's technology or seeds or ideas from somewhere and try to impose that on the land. We don't work with the land. We disconnect with it, right? And it cannot go well. Logically, from a systems thinking perspective, from an evolutionary perspective, it is the math of it is impossible, right? It is virtually impossible to deal with it. You will throw higher and higher and higher energy, effort for a lower and lower return over time. And we've seen that, right? So it's also about seeing your place as your home, about your trust in it, about your faith in it. And we have that crisis of faith in our places right now, right? We don't understand them, but we also don't believe that they can actually provide us for whatever we need. I mean, think of it, like most villages don't grow their own vegetables anymore, right? Textiles are a far cry. We had 200 different kinds of textiles in this country. It's all gone, right? We're seeing Odisha with an enormous amount of bamboo is importing all the agarbatti sticks from China. India is exporting 3,500 crores of agarbatti sticks from China because we can't roll the damn thing, right? So it's stuff like that. So there is a crisis. I'm again no expert in mental health. But I do feel strongly, and when I heard Otto Scharmer, it resonated, that disconnect from your place, that lack of understanding of place makes you weak, right? So, and I think from their experiments and what Shashi described, an understanding of that and designing your food production with that, not merely from the market in perspective, it actually makes you stronger. And we've seen that in numbers, we've seen that in ecological outcomes, in resilience, and so on and so forth. So,
Just to answer that, so the two words caught my attention. Okay, you use the word economics, okay, to associating with mental health. It has got a lot of correlation, okay. Economics of a farm to mental health has huge correlation. So one experiment we ran in Tiptur cluster is around 1,700 farmers. Out of that, 900 are women farmers, okay. I don't know how many of you know 80% of the work in agriculture is done by women. Okay, but they never get to make decisions in running the families. They don't have an economic power to make the decisions. What we decided was, okay, with a little bit of a consent from the family, we wanted to transfer, okay, the money to women's account. Okay, and maybe a lot of people think, oh, what's a novel idea, etc. So we don't really understand implications of our actions. Then every year, okay, we do social audit. When we did, of the first year of experiment, when we did social audit, every household we did that action, violence in the families have gone up. Yes. Okay. So we think, okay, that in a cultural aspect which has been so ingrained deep, you can solve by economic empowerment is hubris, in my opinion. That's the hubris of a learned man or a learned woman. So that's what I can say. Okay, it has a lot of implications on mental health, okay, and people have, over a period of time, they have suffered, but it requires a very gradual change. Out of 1,700 farmers, 900, we are now still continuing to transfer money directly to women's account. But wherever we have transferred have been successful, where we have not reverted, savings in the family have gone up. These farms are some of the best run farms in Akshakalpa, okay, cluster. And education levels have gone up. They've got a very good, okay, homes constructed for themselves. Lot of savings in gold and silver. So that's how they think. Say, a lot of, okay, aspects related to mental health. Okay, they are related to, okay, I think you know Maslow's hierarchy. Okay, you need to need physical and physiological needs. Then you will go to next order. I think that's what will happen. Okay, economics will bring in there, but it's going to be gradual.
This is about the decentralization of groundnut oil that you talked about. About 40 years ago, that is how it was almost everywhere. You go to Warangal or Gulbarga, you bought oil by half-liter measures, right? So how will you reverse it, especially in terms of the media onslaught? You know, now they even say our salt is purer than other people's salt, right? So how will that kind of social change come about is something which I worry about. We are fighting against minds and influential minds and things like that. What's your response to that, sir?
So it took us, we had exactly the same question that, soil health, your own health, ecosystem health, and all of these things play out in the long run, right? But if we cared about the long run so easily, nobody would be smoking, right? So what is the first order trigger? And by chance we found this, we chanced upon this amazing insight that the rural market is a very big market. Right, so we started doing this analysis of your local cluster economics. And we started doing this in the village with the village. So it's not for us. It's not data we need to understand. It's the data the village needs to understand for itself. So in Kolar, if an average panchayat's residents are consuming 2.7 crores in poultry, in chicken and egg, all of it is coming from a poultry farm, broiler poultry farm somewhere far away. Bad, terrible for your health. You don't get chicken poop for your soil. You lose 2.7 crores on it, on an average case. 1.15 crores in Melkote on biscuits. A block in Odisha that sells mustard for 6 crores and buys mustard oil for 9 crores. Right? I mean, I can give you examples all day. I can go on. Now the list is big. This created many triggers. People don't like to feel like an idiot, by and large. So we're hoping, yeah. But when people saw these numbers together for their village, for the cluster, it is a trigger. So that's a trigger, and health is a trigger. So these two we have found as triggers that get people into collective action. In some cases, like when you started oil production, the price is a little higher than what you will get in the market. But in some cases, the panchayats actually resolved to not buy from outside. Right? In Meghalaya, one panchayat, they don't have panchayats, they have traditional structures called darbar shnongs. They decided to not buy broiler chicken in their region completely. People are able to take very wise decisions once the problem is visible to them. So I think doing this net math, because a lot of these are invisible problems. We have broken society down into many I's. There's no we anymore. So when you push back the we thinking through dialogue, through data, through this visibility, people are able to respond to it, at least for the first order things. If there are better ideas, we are really looking for them, right? And the good stories also travel. A lot of people actually hear the success of a particular area in a particular class and want to participate. So hopefully, I mean, we are all racing against time. Shashi is more optimistic than I am, right? But yeah, so from a food systems perspective, what Shashi said earlier, can we be better consumers and demand and consume the farm and not the SKU? Right? Consume seasonally, diverse, local, and so on and so forth, a lot more. It's in our interest, by the way, because we will have better, cleaner, safer food. Bangalore eats a lot of heavy metals in its vegetables because we send a lot of heavy metals down with our water. It goes to the Hosur farms and comes back as food. So if we send out better water, we eat better food. So establishing some of those relationships and yeah.
I know that there are more questions, but the festival has clearly broken for lunch. But thank you so much. I think that what we do want is to be more comfortable with more uncomfortable, difficult conversations. Thank you to the both of you for the work that you do, but also pushing us to ask better questions of ourselves. So thank you so much, Sameer and Shashi, for being here and speaking to all of us.
Thank you for being a patient audience and engaging in this.